I'd like to call a meeting to order. Could I have a roll call, please?
Belsley.
Here.
Lunier.
Here.
Dobb. Hare. Herman.
Here.
Kaufman.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have no public hearings tonight, but we're fortunate in that we have someone, Mr. Hale from Ameren, who's going to talk to us tonight about some infrastructure upgrades in Morton. Mr. Hale,
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
are you going to use the screen?
Yes, yeah. So what I want to talk tonight with you guys is a project that we have going on. It's going to start in a couple weeks. It's actually a multi-year project that's going to bring in an additional 69 source into Morton. With that, we're also going to do some additional upgrades on the distribution line, mainly down 4th Street. But my staff's been working with Craig, try to find the best routes to do this, the best way to get the public informed, and really kind of give you guys the rundown of the benefits that you're going to see from it. So I think the best way is really to show you what we've got going on. I could explain till I'm blue in the face. But really, what it all boils down to is we've got Morton here, but we're building a new substation down here just south of Allentown Road that we're calling Huff Substation. And this is going to be a bulk supply substation that's going to tap the 138 kV line that runs to the south of it, and we're going to transform it down to 69 kV. That's what we're going to bring a source, new 69 source, up to Morton. So in order to do that, what we've got to do is we've got to upgrade the existing 69 line. So to bring you back to Morton, give you a little rundown of what we've got. Currently, Morton is fed primarily by Bush, North Morton, Central Substation, and Southwood Substation. That's where the bulk of your customers are fed from. But one thing they all have in common is they are fed from a radial 69 line into Bush Substation and down through the rest of them. So when that 69 line goes out, we have issues. We can switch around and bring Bush back, but there is no other source for Central, for Southwood, for North Morton. They're out until we make the repairs. We can do some distribution switching to bring some customers back on, but we cannot bring everyone back on as the system currently stands today. With that new source at Huff, what we're going to be able to do is bring that 69 line. It's going to be radially fed. So basically think of it as two light switches that control the same light. One's off, the other's on, and vice versa. If we lost the Bush line, we could backfeed everything through Huff. But in order to do that, we've got to upgrade the conductor. The current conductor cannot support that. So some of that planning actually occurred in 2014 when we worked on the piece from Bush Substation down to the railroad tracks. I don't know if any of you saw the work that went on down Jefferson Street in 2014. That's about 3/4 of a mile that we did to upgrade that conductor on the existing line. What we're getting ready to start is a line build from Central Substation to Southwood. Now, currently, and Craig, you might have to help me out, this line is running down the old railroad. I don't know which railroad.
Central Sub is the one that's sitting around our Penn Street facility, right there around Washington and First Avenue. And then it currently runs through the backyards of
Sunset and
Brentwood and Sunset Road.
So that's where that current 69 line runs through here and down to Southwood Substation. Now, that presents a couple issues for both your residents and us. Obviously, if that line has an issue, us getting in backyards is pretty difficult. As the old railroad tracks used to be there, we had really good access to that line. Since then, since that's gone away, people have, I'm assuming, probably purchased up that ground, made their yards bigger, fenced in. I'm assuming, I drive around Morton quite often, see a lot of nice landscape. That's something that we don't want to mess with. And obviously that never happens on the nicest day of the year. We're dealing with muddy conditions similar to what we saw in the December storm that impacted Peoria, Morton, and the surrounding communities. So from our perspective, from a reliability standpoint, from a safety standpoint, from a restorability standpoint, maintenance going forward, it's easier if these lines are accessible by the road. So as we worked with Craig and worked with what we had existing, we chose the path down 4th Street to get our new route. Because one, we already had an existing line there. It's a distribution 3-phase line. In total, we'll be adding from Central Substation down to Queenwood about 2 or 3 new poles. So the footprint change is minimal as far as the number of poles. What customers will see are taller poles. And I'll show you a difference of what we currently have on Queenwood and 4th Street and what it'll look like once we're completed. So what we're doing is obviously the 69 work has to be done to get that additional source, but we're also rebuilding the distribution at the same time. So again, much stronger resiliency. This line will be built to what we're currently regulated to for avian-friendly standards. So they'll be on bigger cross arms on the distribution side. But again, it's going to be a line that we feel very comfortable that is going to give us the options to backfeed Morton should there be an issue, but also just overall improve the reliability on the sub-transmission and distribution side. So let me quickly show you a picture of what a before and after. Let's see if I can get this to look. Currently, the picture on the left is what you see down 4th Street. The old, real close construction space obviously becomes an issue with birds, also with our linemen as they're working up there as we try to build stuff safe for the next person. We're increasing the spacing on those conductors. What you'll see afterwards is a sub-transmission, the 69 line at the top, and then the distribution below. Then below that you will have any communication will be below us in the communication zone. So there will be a difference there. Overall, like I said, about a 2-full footprint change in total. We've worked with our real estate folks to get as many easements as we can. We've gotten the majority of them for overhang, allow us to trim trees as necessary to again, keep the lines on, keep branches from coming down and impacting the line. The one nice thing is, once this is completed, this will all be set up in a relay scheme where once the line is in service, if there is a 69 issue, Morton will see a blink instead of a prolonged outage to get a lineman out there to either switch or repair. So in the end, this is great for this area. Not only the reliability standpoint, but bringing in that additional source. I liken it to taking a garden hose and upgrading it with a fireman's hose. We're bringing in much more capacity into the area that allows for that load growth. Commercial, residential, anything that comes into Morton will have much more capacity to be able to support that. So I've given you a quick rundown. What we'll be starting in the next couple weeks is working down 4th Street. So we've been working closely with Craig to get a letter prepared to go out to the customers impacted. Obviously, there will be some issues down 4th Street with the closing of a lane. Working with our flagmen to make sure that they're performing the work safely, that the general public is safe. I think one thing that we came up with our meeting last week was working with the schools to make sure that the children knew not to walk while there's work being done. But really we'll be done with the 4th Street build, I would hope, by June, July timeframe, and then be working out of town on Queenwood heading toward Washington Road, and that's where it'll stop this year. Next year it'll start on Washington and build down to the new substation when that goes in service in June of 2017. So it is a multi-year project. All in told, this not including the substation, we're probably looking at about a $5 million project. So it is a significant investment in this area. We feel it's warranted. It's going to allow us to again, better serve Morton as a community. One thing that will also happen in 2017 is that line in the backyards of the folks in Sunset to Brentwood will be removed. So those we'll work with those customers. Obviously, there will be some landscaping issues, but we will certainly make those right. But that won't happen until 2017 when the new line's in service. Landscaping work this year should be minimal. Like I said, we're basically going back where a pole is with a bigger, taller pole, but in the existing space. So there really should be any minimal change, but we will work with those customers on a case-by-case basis to make sure that their yards and property are left in the manner that we found them. I'll open it up for any questions that you guys might have as far as the project, the scope, Anything that I haven't answered for you already?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I think it's outstanding that you're upgrading the system and that it'll result in the removal of some of the lines in the backyards of those people's properties, which is great. It seems to me that the trend has been to run things underground, as they did north of town in the new development. I guess my question is it significantly more expensive to transition all of this new construction to underground for durability and safety purposes? Have you thought about that?
That's a fair question.
Okay.
And it's kind of twofold. On the distribution side, so the service that you would see coming to your house, we do see that more often. There are tariffs in place that should you wish to completely go underground, that our regulatory folks can get with you guys and better speak to that than I can. On a distribution side, as a general rule of thumb, we're probably looking at anywhere from 5 to 10 times the cost for underground on the lower voltage. On 69 voltage, it's much more significant, just because of the infrastructure that has to go in place. The conductor is much larger to allow for the heat dissipation that it does not get in open air. One example I can give you that we went recently with the city of Peoria was a 69 line that was built, I believe, back in the 50s or 60s. That was a pipe-type cable that was under pressure of oil to help it keep it cool. Reached its end of life, and we actually went back with that line overhead. Same general question that they had, and it was just simply cost. The cost was too great to do. At that point, you're installing concrete encased duct to make sure it doesn't get hit. That's obviously a critical piece that's serving not only 1,000, 2,000 customers on a feeder, but fives, tens, thousands of customers in total. So it's certainly something we can discuss at this voltage with the 69. We have very, very little of it statewide, not just in this area underground.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think the other thing to add with that too is a lot of our right-of-ways are already full of utilities. I think even the last 10 years with the fiber companies and the Telecommunications Act, where where our right-of-ways are littered with utilities. So finding that location would probably be very difficult, especially in that corridor. But those are things to look at too.
Any other questions?
If not, thank you so much for coming.
Appreciate
It's
the
a
time.
real nice addition to the community.
We certainly hope so. We look forward to working with Craig and everyone else to, again, provide reliable power going forward. Appreciate being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Steve.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make a comment, not particularly on this issue, but on any other issue? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to pull anything from the consent agenda? Today, the consent agenda includes the minutes from the January 18 meeting and some bills that'll be paid. If not, any of the trustees have a question? If not, could I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Second?
Second.
Ginger, second. Randy made the motion. Any questions or discussion? Call the question, please.
Belsley.
Yes.
Blunier.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Kaufman.
Yes.
I have nothing to add today. How about the village clerk?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Village administrator?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Chief of police?
I just want to apprise the board that we've had conversation with people from Bethel Lutheran School and their fun run walk. There's a 2K and a 5K on that, and that's going to be held on March the 19th of this year. Things get underway at about 8:40 in the morning, and everything's wrapped up by 10 o'clock. There's a group of walkers and another group of some runners on that. We have auxiliary that go through and lead the runners, and the walkers are sort of on their own on the sidewalks. But this is the third annual, and it's the same course that they've done before, so we've granted approval to them. I wanted to apprise the board that this was going to take place.
Thank you. General counsel?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Fire and emergency?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Director of public works?
Two items tonight, Your Honor. First is item A. I'd like to ask for acceptance of a contract with Crawford, Murphy, and Tilley in an amount not to exceed $60,000 to design modifications to the chlorine feed systems and ammonia monitoring systems at water treatment plants numbers 1, 2, and 3.
Motion by Kaufman, second by Lanier. Any questions or discussion, or would you like to make a little more of a presentation?
I'd like to make just a little comment, and first of all, I do have our Superintendent of Water, Bob Burton, in the audience, and then Scott Desplinter with Crawford, Murphy, and Tilly, if anyone's got any questions. But I'd like to add that this work is the result of our recent coordination with the Illinois EPA in an effort to deal with low chlorine residuals that have been discovered in our routine sampling. I think the thing I want to add as a part of this work, and as we continue to work on this, as the village grows and more water mains are added, it becomes increasingly more difficult to maintain adequate chlorine residuals at the farthest points in the distribution system. And I think that's what's in front of you tonight is work on that, and low consumption areas. But as we continue to optimize the water treatment process with the chlorine feed systems, the addition of the ammonia analyzers, and also some upgrades, continuation of upgrades to our SCADA systems. We will be feeding a higher rate of chlorine during that time, at which residents may notice. We have received some calls. I would like to say that, that is normal to expect that change, but also feel free to call us if you've got questions, concerns. The chlorine levels in the distribution system are within the limits for drinking water as established by the U.S. EPA. But like I said, if residents or you guys have any questions, concerns, call us. We'd be glad to answer any questions that you have. But I think with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I know Scott and Bob would also.
Any questions from the trustees? There being none, call it, please.
Lanier.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Kaufman.
Yes.
Belsley.
Yes.
Second item is item B. I'd like to ask for acceptance of the bid for the wastewater treatment plant number 2 disinfection project in the amount of $1,899,900 and award of contract for same to McMahon Incorporated.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Ginger.
And just to add on to that, this project was budgeted in FY16. We've been waiting to get the permit approved by the Illinois EPA. So this will carry over in our next budget session to FY17. And just a little information on this project. I know we discussed it previously, but this is to provide disinfection at 2 of our outfalls, which would be the location where the effluent goes from our plant at Broadway and 4th into the creek. This was a requirement in our recent permit renewal. I would say this was probably expected at some point. I think we just didn't have to do it for a long time, and it finally came due to do this. So it will treat or disinfect the effluent going into the creek for our main discharge, and then also from our storm lagoon, which takes the excess flow during storms from our combined sewer overflows. And like I said, this work is a result of just concerns with EPA on downstream in the creek. And this work will probably take through the end of the summer, and we'll start here next month. Happy to answer any questions that you have.
This was in FY16 within the budget?
Yes, it was. I
Okay.
budgeted $2 million in FY16. So it came in pretty close to that.
It might be worth mentioning to the public that we don't just simply say, oh, okay, EPA will spend a couple of $1 million. This usually comes after a lot of debate and a lot of meetings and a lot of discussion about how can we do this? Do we really have to do this? How can we get by? How can we make it as inexpensive as possible? Craig's put a lot of work into this, and this is just something we're going to have to do. Any other questions? Call it.
Herman.
Yes.
Kaufman.
Yes.
Belsley.
Yes.
Lanier.
Yes.
Thank Anything else,
That's
Barry?
all I have tonight, Your Honor.
Planning and zoning.
A number of items tonight. Your Honor, the first one we'll start with is ordinance number 15-16. And what we're amending here is, there's a couple of things that we wanted to change. One, our mixed-use ordinance is designated on a map that's in our book. And it allows for apartments above or adjoining a business. And this first ordinance is an area that's outside of that zone. So the ordinance only allowed them to have one apartment above their business, and they want to have two. The first one is an existing business that Lonnie Byers had his automotive shop on West Jefferson Street, and he's moved that business to another property that he has further out on West Jefferson that we're going to be talking about here in just a minute. But they have currently one residence there. They wish to have another one. And so what we did was take out the language in there, just a sentence that mentions you could only have one apartment. And then at the suggestion of one of the trustees, we wanted to put a minimum number of square feet per living unit in there because it sounds like maybe one of the neighboring communities had an issue with some really small apartments. People, it was more like a transient type use, which we didn't want to create here. So we kind of went with this 500 square feet, which seems to be a reasonable number that someone can have a bedroom, a living room, a kitchen and that type of thing and still have a space to live. So that's the first part of the change to the ordinance, and that is the 10-6-2B. Then the next one is, the next change was simply taking the language that we had in there where it talked about 800 square foot was in our mixed use ordinance as the minimum requirement, and reducing that to 500 to kind of parallel the change that we made previously, or we just mentioned previously. And then at the end, just add the language of per unit, so that each living unit would have to have a minimum number of 800 or 500 square feet. And that's ordinance -15-16.
So moved.
Are you moving the first two items?
Yes.
Item A and B?
Yes.
That, you want to approve those together?
That's fine.
That'd be great.
Sure. Second.
You say no?
You mean B here? He hasn't
A.
even he hasn't addressed
Okay.
number B.
Yeah, the A is just the ordinance.
Okay.
I mean, I just kind of briefly touched on B if you're,
Well, I'm just thinking if whichever pieces go together.
and we had to pass the ordinance first to create the
All right, well,
need
let's
for
do
this
them one
special-
at a
yeah,
time then.
Yeah.
Approve
All
A.
right. A, second by Randy. Call it, please.
Kaufman,
Yes.
Belsley,
Yes.
Blunier,
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Okay, now that we have that ordinance in place, we have somebody that wants one of those, and that's the petition that's 1601 SP, and it's a special use for living quarters above and a business that they plan to open at 750 West Jefferson.
So moved.
Second by Randy. Do you have more information on that, or?
If there's any questions, what it is, it's on the main floor of that, what was Lonnie Byers Automotive, he had a hair shop in front and then his office for his repair shop. That's going to be a coffee house. And then the lady that's going to have the coffee house wishes to live up above that business.
Okay.
They're going to have a drive-up window for the coffee house. Everything should fit. They have room to maneuver the cars through the parking lot and a drive-up window, and it should be a good use of that property.
Okay. Any questions? Call it.
Belsley,
Yes.
Blunier,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Kaufman.
Yes.
Okay, the next special use is the same petitioner. It's at 1080 West Jefferson, further west on Jefferson. Perhaps you've seen, Lonnie Byers was given a special use some time back for an auto dealership and repair shop. And he's really he's really done a lot of work on this property, repaved the parking lot, re-sided the buildings, landscaped. It really looks nice. And again, he'd like to have a living quarters above the business there, and that's at 1080 West Jefferson.
So moved.
Second.
Randy seconded that first. Any questions?
Just comment on there is, at first blush, the zoning of this is I-2, so it might seem a little unusual to have residential with that, but it really does work for the circumstances involved with this property. One of the main driving reasons is with his residence being there, of course, is allowing him to have more of a secure watch on the site, on the property. He's had an incident or two there before, and this will allow him to accomplish that. And just with this ordinance change that we did tonight, it is a special use, so it's not that we're opening this up for every property like this. It still always will give us a checks and balance for every property after that, or every request. So I think it is a good thing. It allows some flexibility in our zoning and the use of our properties there, but also allowing us to have some oversight as we go forward.
Anything else? Call it.
Blunier.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Kaufman. Yes. Belsley.
Yes.
The next item I have is a preliminary and final plat of Poly subdivision. This is on Herstein Road. It's within our mile and a half. It's not within the corporate limits. Basically, what they're doing is taking the homestead out of the farm and leaving the farm ground to stand by itself, approximately 15 acres. This has all been through the county already at this time, and the Plan Commission had a favorable recommendation for this request to take place, so it's in front of you folks tonight.
Motion.
So moved.
Second for Randy. Any questions? Call it, please.
Herman.
Yes.
Kaufman. Yes. Belsley.
Yes.
Blunier.
Yes.
The next one would be Steve Lehman is requesting, has a final plat, preliminary and a final plat in. There was one duplex lot left on South Missouri, not too far from Apostolic Christian Restmore, and they want to split that lot into two pieces. They have it's already gotten a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals to allow them to build on lots smaller than would normally be allowed. So they have house plans that they brought in, and they meet all the setbacks. If you drove down the street, other than the houses aren't real big, they're a decent size. They're around 2,000 square feet. But they fit real comfortably on those lots. It won't look any different than probably what you looked at when you drove down the street in terms of side yards and that type of thing. And this is for it's actually a fundraiser type thing is what they're doing for a mission. So there's some preliminary things that they're going to have to do with utilities that we're working with right now with Craig on getting, because it wasn't set up like this, so we're going to have to get sanitary and water and things there, but that's all doable. They just have to provide us with a plan that Craig then can approve, and then they can start construction.
So moved.
Second. Blunier. Questions? Call it, please.
Herman.
Yes.
Kaufman. Yes. Belsley.
Yes.
Blunier.
Yes.
Okay, and the last preliminary and final plat that you have before you is Merlin Berkey subdivision. And this is off of South Main. There's Berkey Road. It's just beyond Grimm Chevrolet and on the east side of South Main Street. And there's, again, it's a farmstead that they're platting 3.23 acres out of it's a big farm. I don't know, it might be 100 or more acres. It's an estate type thing, so they wish to have this preliminary and final plat approved so they can make the necessary transactions.
So moved.
Second. Blunier. Questions? Call it, please.
Kaufman. Yes. Belsley.
Yes.
Blunier.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
And the last thing is just an FYI that the zoning maps, the maps have been updated. So if anybody wishes to have a paper copy, we can get those. And just let me know and I'll make sure that you get one. Our GIS, Jeff Bediker in the GIS department, he's pretty on top of that stuff. And all the changes, just like these plats that we did tonight, the special use permits, they'll all be reflected on next year's map revisions. So just for your information.
Is that all you got tonight?
What's that? That's it.
Is that all?
That's it. I'm not going to sing or anything, so.
Trustee Belsley, do you have anything for us?
Nothing this evening.
Trustee Blunier?
I do. I got a request here from Susan Piles, the Director of Tourism. She's requesting $1,500 of tourism dollars to be used for the Central Illinois Lutheran Youth Basketball League to be held March 11th through 13th of 2016. She has a consensus from the Tourism Grant Committee to fund this project. Should create about 60 to 126 rooms and brings about 700 people into town. That's just a quick summary of it. I think it's another example of an outstanding job she's doing to bring events into town. So, Susan, if you have additional information on that you'd like to share, you're welcome to. Okay.
We have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Kaufman. Any questions? Call it, please.
Belsley?
Yes.
Blunier?
Yes.
Herman?
Yes.
Kaufman?
Yes.
Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
I don't. Trustees Dobb and Hare are not with us tonight. Trustee Herman?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor, thank you.
Trustee Kaufman?
Nothing tonight, just a motion to adjourn.
Can I have a second to that adjournment motion by Blunier? Better call them. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're all set.